In a bold social experiment, actor Keanu Reeves disguises himself as a homeless man to discover how a prestigious bank in Beverly Hills treats someone appearing indigent. But before we dive into the shocking twist of events, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on stories like this. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from viewers all around the world. The golden afternoon sun bathed Beverly Hills in its warm glow, accentuating the palm-lined streets and the luxurious atmosphere of a city famous for its glamour. Beverly Hills was a playground for the wealthy, where luxury cars like Bentleys and Lamborghinis adorned the pristine avenues. Amid this display of opulence, a man dressed in ragged clothing walked purposefully down the street. His shoes were worn, his pants frayed, and his shirt hung loosely on his lean frame. Despite his shabby appearance, his confident stride hinted at an unshakable inner strength. Keanu Reeves, one of the most recognized actors in the world, had meticulously crafted his appearance to blend in, not with the elite, but among society's invisible and often overlooked individuals. His disguise was detailed: an unkempt beard, a faded baseball cap shading his face, and clothes seemingly decades old. What set him apart today was his ability to suppress the magnetic charisma that typically drew attention. Today, to the world, he was nobody. Ahead of him stood the grand facade of the First Summit Bank, its gleaming glass doors sparkling under the sun. Keanu hesitated briefly before entering, his heart racing. Inside, the bank was a testament to wealth, with polished marble floors, vaulted ceilings decorated with intricate designs, and customers lounging in luxurious leather chairs, sipping complimentary coffee while elegantly dressed bankers attended them. As soon as Keanu stepped inside, a subtle shift rippled through the room. Conversations paused, curious eyes turned toward him, and whispers filled the air. He felt the weight of silent judgments and assumptions about his worth, or lack thereof. Unfazed, he remained composed and approached the reception desk. Behind the counter sat a middle-aged woman named Marilyn, her hair impeccably styled, her expression icy. She glanced at Keanu disdainfully, barely concealing her distaste. "Can I help you?" she asked flatly, with evident condescension. "Yes," Keanu replied calmly, though he could feel the burning stares at his back. "I'd like to open a basic checking account." Marilyn blinked, clearly surprised, but quickly regained her composure, offering a professional smile that never reached her eyes. "Our minimum deposit to open an account is $500, she explained slowly, as if speaking to someone incapable of understanding. "Do you have that amount with you today?" Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled bill. "I have this," he stated simply. Marilyn's professional mask cracked momentarily, revealing a brief flash of contempt. She let out a short, patronizing laugh before swiftly regaining her composure. "I'm afraid that won't be enough," she said dryly. "Perhaps you should try another institution, one more suitable for your circumstances." The rejection struck Keanu, not because of the words themselves, but due to the ease with which they were spoken. Glancing around, he noticed smirks and murmurs among other staff and customers. For the first time, he felt a strange pang of vulnerability, a glimpse into the challenges faced by the less fortunate, stripped of privileges he typically enjoyed. As Marilyn signaled to a security guard, Keanu's attention was drawn to a young woman at a nearby counter. She couldn't have been more than 20, and unlike the others, her face wasn't painted with disdain. Her expression was a mixture of curiosity and unease, as if silently battling an internal conflict. Keanu mentally noted her face. Keanu nodded silently, his mind racing. This experiment was not merely about testing perceptions. It was about exploring humanity's capacity for empathy. Thus far, the results had been painfully predictable, yet no less disheartening. But Keanu's thoughts were turbulent. The world he had built, and in which he had thrived, felt impossibly distant from the harsh realities faced by those without power or privilege. His experiment had just begun, yet it was already revealing truths more unsettling than he had anticipated. Inside the opulent First Summit Bank, quiet arrogance permeated the air. The staff moved efficiently, their tailored suits and designer shoes reinforcing the image of the bank as a haven for the elite. Marilyn, the receptionist who had earlier dismissed Keanu, sat at her desk exuding the distant superiority of someone who felt above people like him. Undeterred, Keanu lingered near the counter, gripping his crumpled bill. He took a deep breath and approached once more. "I'd like to open a basic checking account," he repeated firmly. Marilyn looked up from her computer, impatiently tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the counter. She sighed dramatically. As I've already explained, our minimum deposit is $500. We don't offer services below that amount. Her tone dripped condescension, each word reminding him he didn't belong. Keanu pulled the bill from his pocket again, smoothing it on the polished marble surface. The faded note seemed absurdly out of place. "This is all I have right now," he said evenly, maintaining eye contact. "But it's enough to start, isn't it?" Marilyn's lips curved into a tense smile, the kind that never reaches the eyes. "Sir, we have policies," she responded coldly. "Perhaps you'd be better served at a credit union or community bank. First Summit caters to a different clientele." Heads turned around the room. Some clients exchanged amused glances, whispering to each other. "What nerve," murmured one, while another suppressed a chuckle. Despite the humiliation, Keanu maintained his composure. His gaze swept the room, briefly settling again on the young trainee he had noticed earlier. She sat several desks away, head bent over paperwork, yet casting glances toward the reception desk, clearly unsettled. Policies aside, Keanu redirected his attention back to Marilyn. "Isn't banking about helping people manage their money, however little or much they have?" Marilyn scoffed softly, leaning in to lower her voice. "This is Beverly Hills, sir," she replied icily. "We aren't a charity." With that, she pressed a button on her desk, summoning the security guard again. The guard, tall and imposing, approached quickly. "Sir," he began with a firm but emotionless tone, "I'll have to ask you to leave if you're not here to conduct business according to our bank's standards." Keanu hesitated, gripping his single bill tighter. He had come here to test more than just the bank's policies. He sought to gauge their humanity. But the strength of privilege was proving harder to penetrate than he had imagined. Reluctantly, he nodded and turned to exit, casting a final glance at the trainee, whose name tag read Clara. She seemed caught in an internal struggle, her expression a mix of empathy and indecision. Unlike her co-workers, who continued with their tasks oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding around them, Clara's gaze followed Keanu as he left. Their eyes connected for just an instant, and in her look, Keanu saw something profound, perhaps an apology or even a hint of defiance. Outside, the sun was still bright, yet Keanu's spirit felt heavy with the truths he had just begun to uncover. As Keanu sat quietly on a bench near the bank's entrance, he closely observed the steady flow of wealthy clients whose immaculate appearances starkly contrasted with his worn-out disguise. His thoughts persistently drifted to Clara, the young employee he had encountered earlier. Would she possess the courage to challenge the bank's rigid corporate culture? Earlier that day, inside the bank, Clara found herself deeply unsettled. Despite her efforts to focus on paperwork, her mind repeatedly returned to the man who had approached the counter. His image refused to leave her thoughts. Calm and dignified despite being openly ridiculed by Marilyn and her colleagues, Clara felt a growing discomfort, sensing they had collectively made a significant mistake. Her fingers trembled slightly as she filed documents, and she recognized a powerful feeling of regret building inside her. Throughout the remainder of the workday, Clara wrestled with her conscience. Why hadn't she intervened when she clearly saw the injustice taking place? She'd been raised to treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their status. Resolutely, Clara decided that she would find a way to make amends the following day, even if it meant risking her job. The next morning, Keanu returned to the park bench across from the bank, quietly observing the bustling activity without immediate plans to re-enter. He felt the sting of yesterday's humiliation and was hesitant about further confrontation. Still, he found himself intrigued by the possibility of human kindness emerging amidst prejudice and privilege. Inside the bank, Clara remained anxious. Though the day had just begun, the previous day's tension lingered heavily. As she organized files at her desk, she overheard Marilyn recounting the incident mockingly to another employee. "Can you believe that guy yesterday?" Marilyn scoffed, shaking her head dismissively. "He genuinely thought he could open an account with practically nothing." Clara felt a pang of guilt and discomfort. Her values had always taught her to treat everyone with dignity and respect, no matter their status. Hearing Marilyn's condescending laughter reinforced her resolve. The encounter with Keanu reminded her precisely why she'd chosen to pursue a career in finance, to help people, regardless of their background or wealth. As the morning wore on, the discomfort of the previous day continued gnawing at Clara. Finally, during her lunch break, driven by an impulse she couldn't ignore, she stepped out and crossed the street toward the park. Her heart quickened as her eyes fell upon Keanu, still seated on the bench, relaxed yet vigilant as he watched passers-by. Summoning her courage, Clara approached slowly. "Excuse me," she softly said, stopping a few feet away. Keanu looked up with neutral yet curious eyes. Clara nervously fidgeted with the edge of her blazer. "I just wanted to apologize for yesterday," she began softly. "It wasn't right, the way you were treated." Keanu's expression softened into mild curiosity. "But you came out here anyway," he remarked gently. "That says something." Feeling somewhat emboldened, Clara continued, "I just wanted you to know not everyone there thinks the same way they do." "Why do you work there?" Keanu suddenly asked, leaning back comfortably. Clara paused, taken aback by the unexpected question. "I always wanted to work in finance," she admitted honestly. "I thought I could genuinely help people manage their money and make a difference. But recently, it seems I only assist those who already have plenty. Yesterday reminded me why I wanted this career in the first place." Keanu considered her thoughtfully. "So, what do you intend to do about it?" he inquired softly. Taking a deep breath, Clara responded firmly. "I want to help you open a basic checking account. Normally, there's a $500 minimum, but I can waive it using my employee privileges." Keanu raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You don't even know me," he pointed out. "No," Clara admitted honestly, "but I can tell you're not what you seem." Just then, Marilyn's shrill voice interrupted from across the street. "Clara, who's that you're talking to?" Momentarily frozen, Clara gathered her strength, turning to face Marilyn. "I'm handling this," she stated confidently. Marilyn hesitated briefly, suspicion evident on her face, before shrugging dismissively and returning inside. Clara exhaled, feeling relieved. Returning together to the bank, Clara led Keanu directly to her desk, ignoring curious looks from colleagues. Quietly, she explained, "Normally, our minimum deposit is $500, but I'll waive it using my employee privileges." Keanu raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Why would you risk your job for a stranger?" he asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," Clara answered without hesitation. As she typed, Marilyn watched suspiciously from her desk, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to openly confront Clara's newfound resolve. Keanu sensed Clara's genuine compassion and felt deeply moved by her courage to challenge the norms around her. "Your account is all set," Clara said triumphantly. "You're officially a customer." Keanu glanced at the receipt, then back at Clara, his expression unreadable. "You didn't have to do this," he said quietly, "but you did." "It was the right thing to do," Clara responded simply. For a moment, Keanu said nothing, his gaze thoughtful and distant. Then, without further comment, he reached into his pocket and placed a folded piece of paper onto the desk. "Thank you, Clara," he said, rising to leave. "We'll see each other again soon." Before Clara could respond, he walked away, leaving her bewildered. She carefully unfolded the paper, frowning slightly as she read the carefully written words. "Your actions today will not be forgotten." Clara tucked the note into her pocket, wondering what Keanu's cryptic message could mean. She understood the monumental risk she'd taken, yet Keanu's departing glance assured her that she'd made the right decision. Keanu said softly, yet with undeniable gravity, as they strolled through the park the following afternoon. Clara felt a strange blend of curiosity and apprehension, sensing that what would happen next would alter not just her perception of Keanu, but also her view of herself. The park was peaceful, the gentle rustling of leaves and occasional bird calls creating a tranquil backdrop for their thoughtful silence. Clara's mind overflowed with questions, but she remained quiet, awaiting Keanu's lead. He appeared lost in contemplation, each step purposeful. Eventually, Keanu broke the silence. "Clara, have you ever wondered why people judge others so quickly based on appearance?" His words resonated deeply, drawing her thoughts back to the whispers and mockery she'd overheard at the bank. "All the time," she admitted earnestly. "It's something I've never been able to ignore, yet I don't know how to change it." Keanu stopped walking and faced her directly. "Sometimes the only way to change a system is to challenge it head-on," he explained calmly. "That's why I came to your bank, to see firsthand how people react when they think someone has nothing to offer." Clara's brow furrowed with confusion. "You're testing the system?" she asked, trying to understand his intent. "In a manner of speaking," Keanu replied with a subtle smile. "I've spent most of my life building systems that shape industries, economies, and even how people envision the future. Yet the flaw in these systems is that they often overlook the very people they're meant to serve." His words settled heavily in Clara's thoughts. "What exactly are you trying to prove?" she asked cautiously. "I'm not here to prove anything," Keanu said gently. "I'm here to find people who still believe in doing what's right, even when it's difficult." They continued walking until they reached an elegant black car parked discreetly at the edge of the park. Keanu opened the passenger door, gesturing for her to enter. "I want to show you something," he said. Clara hesitated briefly, glancing back toward the bank. Her instincts urged caution, but curiosity overcame caution, and she climbed inside, heart racing as Keanu settled into the driver's seat. They drove in silence, city lights streaming past the windows, Keanu's attention steady on the road. Eventually, he spoke again. "For weeks, I've been disguised, testing banks, companies, and other institutions. I wanted to see how they treat people who don't fit their mold of wealth or success." Clara's eyes widened in astonishment. "That's incredibly ambitious," she said, struggling to grasp the magnitude of his experiment. "It's necessary," Keanu affirmed. "Too often, these institutions prioritize profits and appearances over people. But occasionally, I find someone like you, someone who looks beyond the surface." Clara was speechless, her thoughts swirling. Before she could respond, the car descended into an underground garage. Keanu parked and guided her to an inconspicuous elevator. The doors opened to reveal an expansive, ultramodern office space filled with sleek furniture and cutting-edge technology. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking panoramic views of the city. "Where are we?" Clara whispered in awe. "One of my workspaces," Keanu replied casually, observing her reaction. "Here, I plan ideas, build projects, and most importantly, gather people I trust." "Why are you showing me this?" Clara asked softly, her confusion evident. "Because I believe you're one of those people," Keanu responded sincerely. "You had no idea who I was, yet you chose to do the right thing anyway. That's rare, Clara, and I don't believe in wasting rare qualities." "What exactly does this project entail?" Clara asked, feeling overwhelmed yet intrigued. "We'll start small, but its scope is unlimited," Keanu responded earnestly. "You'll help identify systemic failures and propose meaningful solutions, not just for the privileged few, but for everyone." Clara leaned back, processing the enormity of what lay ahead. "It sounds overwhelming," she admitted. "It will be," Keanu acknowledged with a gentle smile. "But together, we can make lasting change." With newfound determination, Clara nodded, ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited. Keanu admitted firmly yet encouragingly, "I wouldn't ask you this if I didn't believe you could handle it." They spoke for more than an hour, with Keanu outlining various elements of his vision while Clara asked insightful questions, her initial hesitation gradually giving way to cautious optimism. As their evening drew to a close, uncertainty still clouded the path ahead. Yet for the first time, she truly felt that she was exactly where she needed to be. Breathing deeply, Clara steadied herself, her fingers shaking lightly as she held the card, her eyes locked onto Keanu Reeves, who waited patiently, his gaze calm and encouraging. "Yes," she finally said firmly, "I'll join your team." A broad smile broke across Keanu's face. "I knew you would," he responded warmly. "Welcome aboard, Clara. You've earned this," Keanu stated clearly, cutting through the stunned silence. "Your integrity and bravery are exactly what I'm looking for. This is only the beginning." Clara nodded, her heart swelling with pride and a hint of nervousness. "Thank you," she replied earnestly. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Keanu reassured her. "Take the rest of the day to gather your things and prepare. Tomorrow we begin." For the first time in her life, Clara felt part of something greater than herself. Her doubts and fears dissolved, replaced by renewed determination. She had taken the leap, and there was no turning back. In the weeks that followed, Clara worked tirelessly alongside Keanu, fostering a culture of empathy and respect. Her days were long and challenging, yet deeply rewarding. No longer a passive participant in a flawed system, she had become an active force transforming it from within. Gradually, the community bank changed for the better. Clients who had previously felt alienated returned, drawn by renewed attention and greater efficiency. Staff morale improved dramatically as streamlined processes eased their workloads and provided better tools for assisting their clients. Clara's hands-on leadership won the team's trust and even Mrs. Garcia, initially skeptical of the new changes, soon became one of Clara's strongest allies. One evening, as Clara wrapped up a late meeting, Keanu unexpectedly visited, casually dressed yet exuding his usual confidence. He surveyed the bustling bank with satisfaction. "This place feels different," he remarked as he approached Clara's desk. "It is," Clara replied proudly, though modestly. "But there's still much to be done." Keanu smiled knowingly. "Progress takes time, Clara, but what you've achieved here is extraordinary." Clara stepped onto the stage and addressed an audience filled with industry leaders, journalists, and innovators. "Finance is about more than just transactions," she began clearly and confidently. "It's about trust, opportunities, and innovation. We have all the tools we need to build a system that truly works for everyone. The real question is whether we have the courage to create it." Her speech was met with thunderous applause, echoing through the hall, signaling broad agreement and admiration. In the days following her presentation, Clara's vision gathered even greater momentum, igniting vigorous discussions and fostering new collaborations across the sector. Those who had once dismissed her ideas now eagerly reached out, seeking to understand how they could become part of her transformative efforts. Several months later, as Clara walked through one of the newly revitalized banks, she observed customers effortlessly utilizing the streamlined services. A young woman approached her, smiling gratefully, and thanked Clara warmly for introducing a loan program that had enabled her to launch her own small business. Clara smiled back, her heart swelling with pride. These moments reminded her precisely why her work was meaningful. That afternoon, back in her office, Clara reflected deeply upon the journey that had brought her here. Meeting Keanu Reeves had been the catalyst, but it was her courage, compassion, and unwavering determination that truly propelled her forward. Initially, she had doubted her ability to effect meaningful change, but now, even in the face of overwhelming resistance, she understood profoundly that transformation was indeed possible. As she packed up her belongings for the night, her phone buzzed with a new message from Keanu. "Great job today. The plan is taking shape. Get ready. This is just the beginning." Clara smiled to herself and slipped the phone back into her bag. She was no longer just a banking apprentice or even a leader in Keanu Reeves' initiative. She was a force of change, at the forefront of a movement reshaping the financial world. For the first time in her life, she felt not only ready, but unstoppable. This newfound confidence made a significant difference in Clara's approach. With a clearer mind and renewed energy, she became even more effective at her job. She realized that self-care wasn't a sign of weakness. It was essential for leading with strength and vision. The demanding nature of her role required her to consistently perform at her best, and maintaining balance was crucial. Over the following months, Clara's initiatives continued to expand significantly. The impact of her work became palpable nationwide, as small banks that once struggled began to flourish, becoming shining examples of innovation and inclusivity. Customers who had previously felt overlooked or excluded now felt welcomed and empowered. Communities previously stagnant financially started to rebuild, thanks to the systems Clara and her team had successfully implemented. One afternoon, Clara stood outside a transformed bank in a rural town that had been on the verge of closure. She watched with quiet joy as hopeful families walked in and out, their faces alight with new possibilities. A young boy, holding his mother's hand, waved at Clara, who warmly returned the gesture, her heart filled with profound pride. Moments like this reinforced the true purpose of her efforts, making a tangible, lasting difference in people's lives. Returning to headquarters, Clara discussed her journey with Keanu during a strategic planning session. "This has grown beyond anything I initially imagined," she admitted sincerely. "When we started, I could never have predicted how far we'd come." Keanu smiled warmly, his voice both serious and encouraging. "That's the beauty of real change, Clara. It starts small, but when momentum builds, it becomes unstoppable. You've done more than transform banks. You've inspired people to believe in a better way." Her voice softened as she responded, "I've learned so much, not only about finance, but about myself. I used to think compassion was a weakness, something out of place in our world, but now I realize it's my greatest strength." Keanu nodded knowingly. "Exactly. Compassion is the foundation of all we do. It gives meaning to this entire endeavor." As Clara continued her impactful efforts, she became an increasingly sought-after voice in the financial sector, frequently invited to conferences, panels, and workshops to share her insights and inspire others. Despite growing recognition, she remained grounded, constantly reminding herself of the challenging path she'd traveled. Clara had indeed faced tremendous resistance, doubt, and immense pressure along her journey. But rather than weakening her, These challenges had fortified her resolve, making her a resilient, visionary leader deeply committed to her mission. One quiet afternoon in her office, Clara glanced at a framed note on her desk. The first message Keanu Reeves had ever given her after opening his account at her former bank. It read simply, "Your actions today will not be forgotten." Smiling softly, she reflected on how far she'd come since that nervous apprentice doubting her capability to make a difference. Now she was a pioneer at the forefront of a financial revolution. Yet, despite her remarkable achievements, Clara knew her journey was far from complete. Still, one thing was certain: she was exactly where she needed to be. One day, Clara listened intently, jaw clenched, as a prominent financial analyst publicly disparaged years of her hard work with harsh critiques. However, instead of feeling defeated, she grew more resolute. Resistance, she realized, signaled that her efforts were genuinely disrupting a status quo desperately in need of change. That night, Keanu called her directly. "Did you see the interview?" he asked immediately. "Yes," Clara admitted calmly. "It's frustrating, but it also proves we're making waves." Keanu laughed reassuringly. "Exactly. Criticism like this only happens when you're onto something big. Let them talk. We'll respond with undeniable results." Buoyed by his words, Clara returned to her work with renewed focus, channeling criticism into constructive action. Their expansion plans accelerated, and soon the first wave of new branches opened nationwide, strategically placed in underserved communities historically overlooked by traditional banks. Each new region brought unique logistical and cultural challenges, requiring Clara and her team to develop tailor-made solutions. Clara traveled extensively, meeting local leaders and community members, deeply listening to their financial experiences and needs. Marcus became an invaluable ally during this phase, his grassroots experience bridging critical gaps between Equity First Bank and the communities it intended to serve. "If we want their trust," Marcus reminded Clara, "we must consistently show up. Words alone aren't enough." When the first new branches finally opened, they were fully prepared, offering specialized services that met local demands. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with clients previously alienated now feeling valued and respected. Stories flooded in, highlighting how Equity First Bank had provided unprecedented opportunities. Despite the successes, critics persisted. The same analysts doubled down, labeling their expansion as recklessly idealistic. However, Clara chose to respond this time, confidently accepting a live televised interview to defend Equity First Bank's mission. Under studio lights, she confronted the analyst with calm assurance. "You've called our approach naive," Clara began evenly. "Yet we've already demonstrated that treating people with dignity isn't just ethical, it's excellent business. Our thriving communities and clear financial results speak for themselves." As the interview went viral, Clara's powerful message resonated, further galvanizing support. Months later, at the grand opening of Equity First Bank's 50th branch, Clara addressed a cheering, diverse crowd. Keanu joined her proudly on stage, acknowledging her extraordinary impact. "This isn't the end," Clara passionately declared. "It's only the beginning. Together, we're redefining finance, ensuring nobody is left behind." The thunderous applause that followed was a testament to their achievements and the profound change they had initiated. For Clara, this was more than a moment of victory. It affirmed that meaningful change, no matter how difficult, was always worth pursuing. Clara leaned back thoughtfully. "It's not just me. Everyone here genuinely cares. They simply needed the right tools and opportunities." "Precisely why you were the perfect choice for this role," Keanu responded warmly. Glancing at his phone briefly, he turned back with excitement. "The prototype works, Clara. Other institutions are beginning to notice." Clara's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you saying they're interested in adopting these changes?" "More than interested," Keanu confirmed enthusiastically. "They're curious, and curiosity is the first step toward meaningful change." In the months following their conversation, Clara's work extended far beyond the community bank. Traveling with Keanu and their growing team, she shared their successes and guided other institutions through similar transformations. It was exhausting yet invigorating, quickly establishing Clara as a trusted voice in Keanu's ambitious mission to reshape finance. One day, back at headquarters, Keanu summoned Clara to his office. The room was as sleek and futuristic as ever, but Keanu's demeanor was unusually reflective. "You've come a long way," he began, indicating for her to sit. I don't think you fully grasp how significant your impact has been. Clara smiled modestly. It's always been a team effort, she said humbly. I couldn't have achieved any of this without the opportunities you've provided. Keanu shook his head gently. I gave you an opportunity, Clara, but you took it and transformed it into something extraordinary. That's what sets you apart. She felt pride and gratitude fill her heart. Thank you for believing in me, Clara said sincerely. I never imagined I'd be capable of something like this. A subtle smile touched Keanu's lips. Belief matters, Clara, but action matters even more. You've shown you're not just capable, but essential. He stood and extended his hand again. This is only the beginning. Are you ready for what comes next? Clara shook his hand firmly, confidence evident in her stance. I am. Leaving the office that evening, she marveled at the profound transformation her life had undergone. Emerging from uncertainty and doubt, Clara now occupied a role perfectly aligned with her values and skills. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she felt prepared to face them, not only for herself, but for the countless individuals who would benefit from the changes she was helping implement. Her role expanded rapidly as the initiative grew. Under Clara's guidance, innovative technologies were introduced, making banking more inclusive and accessible. Mobile applications tailored for rural communities, blockchain technology ensuring transparency, and integrated financial education programs were just a few transformative innovations she spearheaded. Clara's efforts attracted the attention of policymakers, industry leaders, and grassroots organizations alike. Her journey from hesitant apprentice to confident leader became an inspiring narrative, motivating many others to pursue impactful changes. However, recognition brought greater challenges. Resistance from traditional financial institutions intensified, and lobbyists attempted to undermine her initiatives, arguing they were impractical or harmful. Clara faced heated debates and fierce criticism, with skeptics labeling her vision overly idealistic and unsustainable. Through it all, Keanu provided unwavering support. You're not just fighting for change, he reminded her during a particularly challenging week. You're demonstrating that it's possible, and every small victory matters. Eventually, Clara was invited to speak at an international finance conference. Backstage, preparing her speech, familiar nerves surfaced briefly. But recalling the community bank staff, the individuals empowered by their reforms, and the lives genuinely improved, she remembered this was far greater than herself. It represented everyone forgotten or marginalized by the existing system. With newfound determination, Clara stepped confidently onto the stage, knowing that her journey, though challenging, was transformative, not just for her but for countless others whose lives were touched by her efforts. At that moment, she realized fully the depth of Keanu's words. This was only the beginning. Yet, she was ready, driven by purpose, courage, and an unshakable belief that meaningful change was not just possible, it was already happening. Hesitantly holding a worn notebook filled with years of handwritten financial records, the elderly farmer asked, "Will this help me save enough to send my children to school?" Clara nodded firmly, her voice steady and reassuring. "That's exactly what this is for." By day's end, dozens of villagers had opened accounts, and even more had signed up for financial education workshops. The success of this pilot demonstrated clearly that the Equity First Bank's model could thrive in new environments. When word spread about the international pilot project, Clara soon found herself at the heart of a rapidly growing movement. She was invited to global forums where she passionately shared transformative stories and advocated for greater financial equity on an international scale. At one such conference, she recounted the story of the elderly farmer and his question about school fees, using his experience to illustrate the profound ripple effects of accessible banking. Finance is not merely about numbers, she explained earnestly to her audience. It's about opportunity, dignity, and giving people the tools they need to build a better future, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. Her speech drew a resounding ovation, but Clara remained grounded, quickly returning to her work with renewed determination, deeply inspired by the faces and stories of those she'd encountered. Back in Los Angeles, Keanu Reeves called Clara into his office, gesturing to a large map pinned with markers indicating Equity First Bank's expanding project locations. "This is just the beginning," he told her, his voice both encouraging and earnest. "We're demonstrating that financial equity isn't a distant dream. It's possible, scalable, and essential. You've played a pivotal role in making this vision a reality." Clara smiled modestly, reflecting genuine humility. It isn't just me. It's everyone who has believed in this mission. Keanu nodded knowingly. True, but leaders like you make believing practical. You've turned a vision into reality. With Keanu's unwavering support, Clara began laying the groundwork for partnerships with global organizations, including NGOs, technology companies, and even governments. She envisioned Equity First Bank evolving beyond banking into a movement, a powerful symbol of what's achievable when passion, innovation, and determination come together. Standing in the bustling lobby of one of the bank's newest international branches, watching staff greet clients warmly and genuinely, Clara felt immense satisfaction. The journey had been challenging, but it was far from complete. The shared vision she and Keanu had nurtured was now expanding beyond their wildest expectations. Observing the diverse faces of people Equity First Bank now served, Clara smiled softly. This wasn't merely a banking revolution. It was a revolution of hope that crossed borders and changed lives profoundly. Clara felt deeply privileged to be part of something so meaningful. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Clara gently inclined her head, momentarily breaking her usually steadfast confidence. Maybe I initiated this, she began quietly, but you've taken it farther than I could have ever imagined, Keanu interjected warmly. You've transformed an experiment into a global movement. Clara gazed at the lively urban landscape before her, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. I couldn't have done it without your belief in me, she responded sincerely. But now it's grown beyond either of us. Keanu agreed, eyes thoughtfully fixed on the horizon. That's how you know it's worth doing, when the work surpasses those who started it, taking on a life of its own. As the year drew to a close, Clara reflected deeply on the incredible journey that had brought her to this point. Equity First Bank had become a beacon of hope for millions, proving compassion and innovation could coexist within the financial sector. The numbers spoke clearly: countless new accounts, small businesses thriving, and entire communities revitalized. Yet for Clara, the real impact was measured in human stories: farmers, entrepreneurs, and families who now accessed opportunities previously unimaginable. The next phase involved scaling their model globally, leveraging technology to reach remote areas. Clara and Keanu collaborated with tech innovators to create AI-driven tools capable of analyzing community needs and delivering tailored solutions. Blockchain technology ensured transparent, trustworthy transactions, while multilingual mobile apps provided essential financial education. Despite technological advancements, Clara never lost sight of the human connection. She prioritized frequent visits to communities, actively listening and ensuring local voices guided Equity First Bank's future. During a global leadership summit, Clara was honored with an award recognizing her dedication to financial inclusion. Accepting the accolade, she shared a heartfelt message. This isn't just about banking. It's about believing in the resilience and capacity of people to build better futures when given the chance. What we've achieved so far is just the beginning. Her powerful words deeply resonated, inspiring other leaders to reconsider their approach to systemic change. Clara's genuine humility and authenticity made her a respected and admired leader, deeply trusted by many. In quieter moments alone, she often recalled the ragged man who'd entered her bank months earlier, unknowingly sparking this remarkable journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and immense personal growth. One evening, catching up with Keanu after a long day, Clara asked thoughtfully, "Do you ever think about how it all started? That day at the bank?" Keanu smiled warmly, eyes twinkling with amusement. "Of course. It began as a test, but you made it extraordinary. You reminded me why I initiated this experiment." Clara laughed softly. "And you've reminded me that the smallest actions can lead to the most significant changes." Sitting in comfortable silence, the weight of their shared journey settled around them gently. Clara eventually broke the quiet, her voice carrying calm determination. "There's still much to do. There always will be," Keanu agreed thoughtfully. "But with leaders like you, the world has a fighting chance." Returning to her work, Clara carried those encouraging words, fueled by the conviction that genuine, lasting change wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. She would remain at the forefront, challenging outdated systems and transforming lives. As Clara and Keanu walked together one peaceful evening, the city lights softly illuminating their path, an invisible thread of shared history and purpose connected them. They'd created something remarkable, but the countless lives improved, the ripple effect of their vision, would become their lasting legacy. For Clara, the journey had been profoundly personal. From an uncertain apprentice to a global leader in financial inclusion, she had become someone she'd never imagined possible. Leading this revolution, she felt immense humility toward the collective effort underpinning their achievements. Keanu also appeared reflective, aware his initial experiment had been a catalyst, yet Clara had elevated it far beyond his expectations. She had not just challenged the system, but rewritten it, demonstrating compassion and progress could indeed coexist within even the most rigid industries. Turning a corner, Clara softly asked, "Do you think people will remember us?" Keanu's expression warmed genuinely. "Perhaps they'll recall our names," he replied. "But what truly matters is the impact, the lives touched, opportunities created. That's what endures. People may forget who we were, but they'll always feel the effects of what we accomplished." Clara nodded, a quiet pride filling her heart. "I like that," she said. "It's not about being remembered, it's about making a difference." They continued their walk, surrounded by the comforting hum of a city they had helped reshape. Clara felt a deep, peaceful satisfaction knowing their mission was ongoing, sustained by those they had inspired and systems they had reformed. As they parted ways that night, Keanu paused briefly. "You know, Clara," he smiled, "the best experiments are unpredictable, and you've been the most remarkable and unexpected result of all." Clara laughed joyfully, her laughter echoing gently down the quiet street. "I'll take that as a compliment," she replied, eyes shining brightly. As she walked home beneath fading golden light, Clara felt certain their work was far from finished. The seeds they'd planted continued growing, spreading hope, opportunity, and promise worldwide. Thank you for watching. If the story warms your heart, subscribe to the channel and click the screen for more inspirational stories of resilience, compassion, and hope.